It's time for some trivia, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're bringing back a classic YouTube tradition, answering questions and challenging some fellow content creators to do the same. For each of the 12 topics we cover, we'll also be showcasing a nominated channel on the side. Whether they choose to participate or not is up to them, but even if they can't fit a similar video into their schedules, you might just find yourself a few new favorites along the way. So let's not waste another second and dive right in. Question 1. What were some of the earliest platforms and games you played growing up? Before I can remember, my family had a NES with a copy of Super Mario Bros., but it stopped working well before I could build up any notable memories with it. What comes clearer to me is my Game Boy Pocket and PlayStation. Those were how I was introduced to Pokemon, Super Mario Land, Crash Bandicoot 2, Metal Gear Solid, and Spyro the Dragon. For my Nintendo console fix, my best friend and Super Battle Bud across the street had a Super Nintendo and N64, and during those days we'd head over to his place a lot for Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country 2, Banjo-Tooie, and during his cousin's annual visits, Super Smash Bros. Question 2. What games have you enjoyed recently that you'd recommend? Between working full-time hours and almost doubling that for Schmidt times, I haven't had much time to actually play games this year, but I always try to squeeze in some Super Smash Bros. For Wii U where I can, and slowly but surely I'm pushing my way through Pokemon Ultra Sun. One day I might just beat it. Question 3. What was the first gaming channel you watched on YouTube? I might have started my channel a little late compared to folks around my age, but like many from my generation, the Angry Video Game Nerd was the first I checked out, followed closely by Egoraptor. I kinda started a little late on AVGN too, but that just meant there was a hefty backlog for me to binge. Question 4. What gaming channels have you found yourself watching lately? Everyone featured in this video are folks I try to watch whenever I can make the time. Beyond those 12 delightful channels though, I never miss an episode of Nitro Rad, Relax-A-Lax, and Ant Dude. If there's something to take away today, it's these creators, ladies and gentlemen. With 15 to browse, you're definitely gonna find at least one to love. Question 5. Where do you find yourself spending the most time on the internet? If I'm at my computer, I always have at least one tab of YouTube and Twitter open. Whether I'm writing, editing, or just indulging in a bit of recreational viewing, the former is streaming game soundtracks, research, or entertainment of some kind. As for the latter, I follow a ludicrous amount of people, so with all those artists, developers, and content creators on my list, there's always something swell to see. I keep the Schmidt Times follows significantly lower than my personal account though. It offers a more curated and relevant lineup to the craft. Question 6. How long does it take you to make a video on average? I keep track of how long every video takes through a website called Toggle, so while the process always fluctuates based on assets set up and the like, I can provide some rough averages with my current workflow. Generally speaking, if I can work from start to finish on something like a God a minute, I can manage to pull that off in about 6.5 hours if I have minimal research to do. For the longer productions, sometimes it takes about 11 to 14 hours on a 1-minute video, because the editing is very, very intensive and takes a lot of my time. When I first started out making those top time videos, each of those took about 96 hours on average, and they were intense to handle on my laptop, but they're always worth it in the end. Question 7. What hardware and software do you use to make your content? Thanks to the lingering costs of college, all my equipment is borrowed right down to the laptop I work on. Although I can happily say that I'm in a position today that'll allow me to change that pretty soon. I record my audio with a Sennheiser microphone hooked up to an H6 recorder, and edit every video in Adobe Premiere Pro with a quick pass-through levelator to bring the dialogue up. There's a lot of moving parts, but I'd say it's a pretty swell setup if I do say so myself. Question 8. Do you watch your own content? Oh, I sure do. I'm of the mindset that content isn't worth putting out if you can't enjoy it yourself, so I always dive back into the vault to watch some of my old material. It's also a good way to gauge how your content is changing and where it was weeks or months back. The fact that a lot of my videos are under a minute makes it easy to get sucked into multiple viewings too. Question 9. Which video of yours do you think is the most underrated? For Zelda Month 2017, I put together a tour of Termina that was synced to an incredible arrangement by Theophany. Don't know if I said that right, but we're gonna roll with it. It was produced back when I was still stuck using a machine that could hardly keep up with Premiere Pro. Every preview was chugging up a storm and my laptop would crash typically twice a day with over an hour's wait to boot back up and relaunch. Suffice it to say, that video was a real labor of love. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears poured into that one. It never really found its footing, which I think can be attributed to the song's slow build-up, but if you're a fan of Majora's Mask, definitely check it out. The moment the tension rises sends shivers down my spine every time I revisit it, and it could very well do the same thing for you. I should stress though, the emotional impact is a testament to the composer's mastery of music. It inspired the video and continues to be one of my favorite compositions. Question 10. What's your favorite video you produced so far? My Plants vs. Zombies video still ranks high on my list. Assembling larger videos while working full-time hours takes a lot out of me, so I remember that grueling production cycle well. I forced myself to finish it on a deadline by leaving a Monday time slot open with no backups to plug the hole. I powered through an intensive weekend to wrap it up and came to work the day of my delivery date on 2 hours of sleep. Yeah, I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that was one brutal shift and most certainly not the way I'd recommend kicking off a work week. Question 11. What advice would you give to someone starting a channel like yours? It's a long road ahead with no guarantees, so go in every upload expecting to see a low number of views, likes, and comments, but don't take the audience you managed to find along the way for granted. Bigger numbers just make it harder to engage with everyone, so while you're small, which is going to be a long time unless you're lucky, take the time to enjoy your community's company. And from a production standpoint, I'd say to gauge your time and know when to call a cut complete. Always pursue perfection, but make sure you're also following your own self-imposed deadlines to keep yourself rolling ahead. Giving yourself some semblance of structure will keep you sane. Question 12. What do you hope to accomplish with your channel? Whether it's writing scripts or editing sequences, there's nothing more satisfying to me than producing videos, so my goal is to strive for full-time video production. I got a taste of what that life can be like during my job hunting period following college and the months I spent working on gamepad productions, and I want to claim it back on my own terms with Schmidt Times. With your help, I think it's just a matter of time before we can make that dream a reality. Hey there, pal. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that glimpse into the world of Schmidt. If you're craving more content from me, I'd recommend this playlist right here. But if you want to see more from the other channels, we've got those here for you too. They're also in the description, so give them a gander and check out their content. You won't be disappointed.